Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into our big stories. And we're hosting the legislator from North Tong. You know him. So do I. Samuel Acheampong-Ablakwa is in the studio this morning. And we're going to be dissecting myriad issues of national scope. Mr. Acheampong-Ablakwa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Kakwa. How are you doing?
I'm well. I can see you're pretty well yourself.
Yeah,
nice tie.
You know. Thank you, thank you.
Is it a Charles Stewart?
Looking good too.
Is it a Charles Stewart or a TM Lewin?
Not sure what it is.
All right. I'm just looking at something interesting here, posted by Bendoche Malo. I'm sure you know him.
Yes, yes.
He talks about a Maybach on a potholed street in Accra. Maybach. Interesting. But it tells you how sometimes we don't live up to what supposedly we are. We are a country in distress, but apparently not everybody is in distress. But let's talk about the National Cathedral. That's where I want to start off from, especially because yesterday there was that conversation in Parliament. Abno Sayasari, Minister of State at the presidency, right, for finance, also read out
at the Ministry of Finance.
At the Ministry of Finance. What do you make of what she said? The 339 million Ghana cedis that so far have been pumped into that project and everything in between. I want you to start from there.
Yeah, so good morning to all our viewers and good morning to the team here. And let me commend all of you for the great job you're doing for God and country. This National Cathedral project, I have to be very honest and brutally frank with you, that it has epitomized the massive corruption, the lack of prioritization, the abysmal levels of policy formulation, the disrespect for the Ghanaian people, and the disregard for our laws. All of those ingredients are at play when you come to analyze this National Cathedral project. How come a project which was first presented to us as a private project, a personal pledge of the president, which would not require public funds? The president was emphatic. Indeed, when the president met the eminent clergy, the first time he constituted the Board of Trustees, he told them that they were not going to use public funds. They were going to raise resources from outside the exchequer, outside the public purse.
Yes, but it was also made mention that there would be seed funding.
Then you recall, I'll come to
mention was made of seed funding, which
I'll come to that. I'll come to
that.
That was much later. Then you recall that a citizen went to the apex court of the land, James Kwabena Bonfe, saying that this project will open the floodgates. Traditionalists are likely to ask for a national shrine. Muslims will ask for a national mosque because they all pay taxes. The Attorney General at the time, in his presentation in the courts, and we have all the court documents now, we have the judgments, they misled the judges, saying that, look, this cannot be seen as a national project per se, because the president has clarified it's a personal pledge. The only contribution the state is making is to provide land, and so this will not open the floodgates. Now, how did we move from no state resources then to seed capital? After they began to carry out amendments, when we had exposed the lack of sincerity, lack of candor with the claims that they will not use public funds, they then made a significant shift and said they are going to use minimum resources, very minimum, and that it will be just a seed fund.
Minimum is relative.
Good point. So that is why, on the floor of the House, if you check the Hansard, my good self, the Honorable Dr. Yeni, when we were debating the 2019 budget, we said that under our laws, under the Constitution of Ghana, You cannot just say that you are going to use seed fund and leave it so vacuous without specificity. There ought to be a figure. That seed fund you are talking about, your brilliant intervention that is relative, we made that point and we said, as lawmakers, we are required to know what the amount is. Because every single project in the budget, that is the law. You must provide the specific amount. So we asked, up to now, are you aware that the government has not told us that seed fund, what it will amount to? Meanwhile, remember that this project started, the first announcement, it started at $100 million. Recent documentations they've brought to us in Parliament, the project is now hovering around $450 million.
True, which is what we've heard as well.
Yes. So, what is the seed fund for this? Meanwhile...
But as members of Parliament, you didn't probe the matter enough to get down to it. That is where your duty as parliamentarians comes in. I can't go and push for that. As a media person, I can push maybe RTI and all that. We know how some of that has gone. We're still fighting some of these cases, Ghana Airport Company and others.
Yes.
That's where you, as members of Parliament, come in to hold leaders to account.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So do you admit it's a failure on your side then?
No, it's... Look, the government has been stonewalling from day one. You see, this is a project in honor of the Almighty. It's God's project. Should we even go through this hassle, this tussle, to get the government to be transparent? The Lord's project. If you can't be transparent, you can't be sincere, candid with the Lord's project. When we know in the Bible, people were stopped, you know, people like David, after God's own heart, were stopped because God said their hands are not clean. So it's not for you. Hold on. You know, the Lord's project, if everything about purity, about transparency, about cleanliness, holiness, should be associated with any project, it should be this project. Remember that even with the figures that have now emerged, I had to intercept documents between the Ministry of Finance and the Controller Accountant General to then reveal that on our blind side, without parliamentary approval, in violation of the 1992 Constitution, funds, public funds, are being released without parliamentary approval. And you recall,
are you referencing where Kenneth Ofori-Atta, there was that tussle in Parliament, and he made mention of the fact that he hadn't taken from the consolidated fund?
Yes.
And do you remember that conversation?
Yes.
Is that what you're referencing?
Yes. So after my exposés, which then became one of the grounds for his removal, at the vote of censure committee hearings, that's when he tried to play clever by saying that he took funds out of the contingency vote. And for the contingency vote, you don't really require specific approvals. It's a lump sum. But you see, this project does not qualify in any way, if you read our Public Financial Management Act, as contingency. Contingency is something that is a happenstance. It's unpredictable, has just come upon you, you know. And he himself, the examples he cited at the vote of censure committee, talking about tournaments, and he says that when we were in power, we used the contingency vote for
the 2014 World Cup.
Black Star appearances. That is contingency because you don't know how well the team will perform. You don't know if the team will qualify to the next round, and they are winning bonuses. So it depends on if they will win or not.
I think those points, that horse has been flogged.
So those qualify the contingency. So you have a situation where this government has squandered, as we speak, $58.1 million. That's the 339 at the time, the exchange rate at the time.
You're not using the current exchange rate. You're using the past exchange
at the time these releases.
When specifically are you?
These releases were made. So between 2018 and 2021. Okay. So this is Ken Ofori-Atta's own analysis that he presented to the vote of censure committee. $58.1 million. Now, this figure, are you aware that this figure leaves out many other expenditure items? So this $58.1 million is even misleading. It doesn't give you the full picture. For example, the cost of replacing the demolished structures, this figure does not address that. So
the structures around
the structures that
were demolished.
Yes.
I know the scholarship secretariat.
Yes,
for example,
I can give you the full list.
Some judges' quarters.
Yes.
Had to
So
be moved.
the judges' quarters,
had to be moved.
the Judicial Training Institute, the Scholarship Secretariat, the Passport Head Office. Then you have bungalows for Shraj, Comsys IT firm, their headquarters was demolished. Waterstone Realty apartment complex was also demolished. Then the Malian ambassador's residence. Yesterday, in her response to one of our follow-up questions, she said that she hasn't put out a figure on compensation because they are largely government buildings. Again, that is not accurate. As we speak, we have spent millions of Ghana cedis relocating these judges temporarily, and we are now building new structures for the judges. I have seen a document from the Chief Justice's office, the former Chief Justice, Justice Eni, where he requires $50 million to replace the Judicial Training Institute. That is not part of this figure. Then, as ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, I also know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had to allocate 10 million Ghana cedis to replace the Passport Head Office. That is not part of these 339 million Ghana cedis we are talking about. Then don't forget that under our diplomatic obligations, once the Malian ambassador's residence was demolished, we ought to replace it to prevent a diplomatic tiff or a diplomatic row. We have now found some land at airport residential area, and the Malians are waiting for their full compensation. That is not part of this 339 million. So by the time we are done, now don't forget that as we speak, there are a number of court cases. Some of the persons affected have gone to court. The recent one is the Waterstone Realty apartment complex court case, where they are seeking some $6 million in compensation because apparently the allocated land to them, anytime they have attempted to take possession, there are national security operatives there, if you read the court documents, preventing them from taking possession. And so after a year and a half, they were compelled to go to court to seek compensation. So by the time we put all of this compensation together, replacing the Judicial Training Institute, $50 million, judges whose bungalows must be replaced, the private firms, the Malian ambassador's residence, this $58 million will pale into insignificance. So the $58 million, we must understand that it cannot represent the full picture, the real impact. Then you need to also come into discussing this $58 million. Have we had value for money? In my series of exposés, I have pointed out how monies have ended up at the wrong places. Monies intended for this project, this 339 million. We probably would have found some succor, a little bit of respite, if these sums really went into the project. As we speak, a gentleman called Carrie Summers is in the United States of America with our $6 million out of this $58.1 million.
So what did this person do?
They say that it was commitment to him to go raise funds for us. As we speak, he has raised no funds. Best practice.
Let me ask you this to move the conversation forward.
Yeah,
some of these things you've said in the past.
So best practice is that he should have raised the funds and then he's given commission.
Right.
You know, then we haven't even talked about David Ajayi's. I mean,
and I knew you would go there.
Extremely inflationary prices.
And I've heard you say things like he should return sums of money, which I don't see happening. I don't know which laws you're going to be quoting on that. But I just want to find out from you. 339 million Ghana cedis, what you say is the equivalent of $58.1 million, pumped into this venture.
Yeah.
we still have what we have there, foundation. In fact, there's no foundation. It's
a pit, the world's most expensive pit, really.
At least what should have been the foundation has been dug. How do we get value for this money? And how are you, as members of parliament? I can't say if you come to power because, I mean, who knows what will happen? You may or may not come to power, your party. How do we retrieve these sums of money? How do we make it make sense to the ordinary taxpayer? I think that's where the conversation should be going.
Brilliant question.
What are you doing?
Brilliant question. I agree with you. And that is why my colleagues and I, more than a year ago, filed a motion in Parliament calling for a full-scale parliamentary inquiry. Because you see, there are moving pieces. There are different puzzles. There are many, many angles to this. Many, many angles. Our colleagues on the majority side think that one parliamentary question, as they did yesterday on the cost, should settle the matter. And as they noticed, the minister had to run away from all our follow-up questions. For example, releasing funds without PPA approval. This project had not received approval from the Public Procurement Authority. The PPA responded to my RTI request on the 5th of July, 2022, and confirmed that there was no PPA approval to rebate the contractors on the site. So we need a full-scale parliamentary inquiry. That motion was admitted by the Speaker. We all debated.
There was no approval from the PPA?
Yes, there was no approval.
Public procurement?
Yes.
I see.
Yes. I'll show you the letter on the 5th of July,
Please
2022.
Please do. Go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Frank.
Do you have it here?
Yes, it should.
Can you show me now?
Yes, I would.
So we don't forget.
Yes, I'll let you have it. It's in my car. I'll let you have it. I left.
You don't have it here.
I left those, but it's within.
You have
the
a stack
premises.
of.
Yes, I have a lot
here,
of
but
documents.
You don't have that.
These documents are all on the SSNIT hotels. I left
Okay,
the
all
Cathedral documents in the car, but I'll let you have that. Just let the.
So later you promise to send it, share it with
before
us.
the show ends. Let the producer just go into my car and pick up those documents. So you will see when those documents arrive that the PPA said they have no records at all of this. Shocking. And when I asked the minister yesterday, she said she now wants to go back to the office and check, how they release funds without PPA approval. So we need a parliamentary inquiry into this matter. Our colleagues who did not oppose this motion agreed with us. Then we got to the last stage, which is membership. How do we populate the committee? Who are those to serve on this committee? Would you believe that over a year, our colleagues are stonewalling? They are refusing to present members from their side who should serve on the committee. If you have followed proceedings, virtually every Friday after the reading of the business statement, I remind the House, I appeal to Mr. Speaker, that this matter is pending. We haven't delved into it. We haven't had the full-scale inquiry. Because you see...
So are you basically saying that without the collaboration or cooperation of the other side, your side in Parliament can do nothing? Is that what you're saying?
So, good question.
Just make it clear for me.
So, my last two reminders in the House, I have appealed to the Speaker that clearly seeing that our colleagues on the other side don't want to cooperate, let us have a one-sided, let's declare their conduct a boycott and have a one-sided probe. It is allowed.
What was the reaction of the Speaker?
The Speaker said he will have further consultation with leadership. He's clearly running out of patience. He's clearly running out of patience. Because you see, boycotts are part of the democratic tools. So if we declare what they are doing a boycott, we can go ahead. For example, when they said that in 2012, after the elections, so we entered 2013, they said they are the Supreme Court, so they will not recognize President Mahama and legitimize his actions. They didn't participate in the vetting at the Appointments Committee hearings. What we did was to proceed, and those ministers were sworn in. There was nothing illegal about it. It was a one-sided vetting of the ministers. So we can have a one-sided, and it will still be.
So that's what you're pushing
working.
for now?
Only a few days ago, we boycotted the continuous appointments because we are saying that we are tired of all this bloated, government. They went ahead and vetted the deputy trade minister nominee. So that's what we are pushing for now. Because when we have this inquiry, then we will know all of those people keeping our funds, because we know this.
So fine,
58 million
you then know the moving,
then
the moving parts.
moving
right.
parts.
This eighth parliament is drawing to a close.
Yeah.
Are you sure you can achieve that? Just the final bit
Yes,
on that. Are you sure you can achieve that before
we have to look?
Wind down on the eighth parliament?
It will be such a major dereliction, such a terrible letdown of the Ghanaian people if we don't achieve that. We have to. We have to, and I'm determined. I have not left this.
So your end game is what?
In respect
to
so
the 339 million. What you've mentioned Ribaldi. There's what's the gentleman's name you mentioned?
There's David Ajayi.
David Ajayi.
There ought to be retrievals.
What is going to be done specifically? Just give me 30 seconds.
So retrievals, sanctions.
Retrieval of what? Money?
Of our funds, our public funds that are in their hands. Then there ought to be sanctions. Some people will have to be prosecuted for causing financial loss. All this withdrawing public funds without approval, the Constitution is very clear. The procurement breaches. Mm-hmm. Our laws are very, very clear about that.
Right.
So we need to have all of these consequential actions. Then as a country, we must also decide what happens to the site. An inquiry could make some recommendations, could even solicit views from the public. We can have a national discussion about what should happen to that site moving forward. I've heard the TUC, for example, suggest that probably the place could be converted into some, modern specialist hospital. These are matters that we can all discuss moving forward. But you see, there ought to be full accountability. We must know those who have brought us to this point, who have created this grand financial loss. And then lessons must be learned, and people must know, public officials must be made an example so that all of us will learn that you cannot just come into power, engage in all of these, legal infractions, take us for granted, and expect to get away with it.
All right. So that document you were looking for, we'll get that to you shortly, because I want us to wrap on this National Cathedral, everything related to the National Cathedral, and then we can take it from there. All right, so we'll get back to that issue. We'll move from there in a bit. I think when we get that document, was that to do with the carriers guy?
No, that is the PPA.
That's the PPA.
No PPA approval.
No PPA approval. All right. So we'll get back to that.
5th July 2022.
All right. I see a message here. Mutala Mohammed, Mr. Host, don't let Honorable Ablakwa deceive you that he left his evidence in the car as he is perceived. This is perceived to be a serious case. Actually, Mutala, the documents is being secured from his car as I speak. We'll share that document before he leaves. So whatever the case may be, keep your heart where it ought to be. But let's get to the SSNIT issue. I've seen a number of the TUC with their numbers. They have poo-pooed the move. I've heard pensioners talk about it. Recently, I think it was the Director General, Osafo Mafu, who came and said, I think that they've stalled negotiations and they are conducting further investigations into the matter. Some have called you anti-Ghanaian for this drive, that you don't want another Ghanaian to, in fact, you've been dragged to court. The Blaze have taken you to court. Are you quaking in your boots? And you've also countersued a few people. What exactly is happening? What's the latest on that?
Let me be clear. What we are pursuing, and when I say we, I have been really touched by the tremendous support from the Ghanaian people. You saw the thousands who poured out on the streets, who acceded to my humble request that we need to rise up and stop the state capture. We've never seen anything like this. The marauding state capture unfolding before our very eyes. No regards to due process, no regards to the protection of public property, cannot continue. And all our partners, the TUC, the Federation of Labour, you've seen Coalition of Youth Groups, the Gadangbe Council, the La Traditional Council, the Lakba Wulomo, and all of those. I am eternally grateful to all of them. the NDC, the other opposition parties, the minority caucus, our leadership, who have offered tremendous support. This has become an overwhelming, massive, national quest to stop state capture. Now, as for the name calling, it will continue. It is Mr. Domlevo who famously said that when you step out to fight corruption, corruption will fight back. People will come after you. People will call you all kinds of names. We are not saying that Ghanaians should not do business. Ghanaians should not invest their monies in Ghana. I mean, when did this become about stopping Ghanaians from doing business? It's not about that. I mean, there's so many other Ghanaians who participated in this process. We are saying fundamentally that the justification, the policy justification, policy imperatives, the business case for the sale of these SSNIT hotels have not been made out. What is the reason why a very profitable hotel like the Labadi Beach Hotel, and I have all the financial statements.
I mean, these are things you've mentioned.
By Deloitte.
50 plus million they have in liquidity at the bank, how much they've been turning over.
Very profitable. Why will you be selling 60% shares in such a profitable venture that pays dividends every year? Last year, 25 million, the year before, 10 million. And we are talking about assets built by workers' contributions and assets that will take care of workers when they retire. It's about pensions. And we are saying that if you look at the policy options available in the toolkit, a sale should be the last option. What happened to a change in management? Because we have seen from the history of Labadi that when they were not doing well, they were struggling, and there was a management change. We brought in legacy. It revamped the fortunes, transformed the fortunes. So when you adopt a leadership change at the top in terms of managing these hotels, the case study of Labadi shows that it works. There are many other options, including floating shares and all of that. Why do we have to see this outright sale? Then we are also saying that if you look at the preferred bidder, he is a politically exposed person. I am not aware of any country, any rule of law destination where a cabinet minister is allowed to purchase a state asset. Particularly,
but we have had in the past some members of the NDC owning some shares in some of these state properties, being allowed to do that,
politically exposed persons since 1966, you know, have been...
So fundamentally, you agree that is wrong?
It's wrong.
Which is why you are pushing for that bill to prevent politically exposed people from owning it.
If you clearly assess my political trajectory, my first major case at the Supreme Court had to do with this matter. Jacob Echebilamte buying his bungalow, he stayed in, you know. So I have consistently, this was 16 years ago, I've consistently said that politically exposed persons should stay away from state assets.
Yeah, but do you think you as members of parliament and even the political class, you are committed to it? I mean, it's open there for you to go. Even parks and gardens properties are going. Roman Ridge properties, airport, cantonments. You, the political class, you are practically robbing the country blind. Will it be... I mean, it's practically gone, everything.
I partially agree with you that there's some robbery. Where I disagree with you is the generalization. There are some of us. I'm not alone in this. There are a growing number of politically exposed persons, members of parliament, who have approached me that, look, we want to join you, this private members bill. We will join you to have it passed. And I want to salute the lawyers led by Professor Kweku Azan, who've done tremendous work. We are calling it the Protection of State Assets Act. And very soon we will share the draft with the general public. Look, you are right that as we speak, even today, I have 2 ministers who I have filed urgent questions to come and tell the House, the Ghanaian people, what they are doing to protect state assets. Parks and Gardens lands. They went to work one day, and some people showed up that they are from Danny Ike Real Estate Company Limited, that they are the new owners. So the local government minister has been summoned today to respond to my urgent question, what he is doing to protect Parks and Gardens lands, not only in Accra, in the Western region, in the Volta region, in the Upper West region, where the regional minister, intercepted documents I put out, revealed that he is helpless in keeping out some private developers who have showed up that they are building fuel stations on Parks and Gardens lands. Then, only a few days ago,
and that will be the final point on that, so we can move.
Yeah, only a few days ago, you have an unprecedented move where judges said they have had enough. So the judicial service has gone to court about their bungalows, 13 bungalows, and I have those court documents here. I'll quickly run through them. Number 7, 5th Circular Road, Cantonments, last occupied by Justice F.G. Korbie.
You just have to go a bit.
Number 18, 5th Circular Road, Cantonments, last occupied by Justice Anthony Abada. Number 21, 5th Circular Road, Cantonments, last occupied by Justice K. Oforiatta. 13 of them, Robin Batus, Justice Yaapao, Justice...
Which areas? So cantonments?
Cantonments opposite the American Embassy. And already these judges have suffered so much. Appeal court judges, bungalows demolished to build National Cathedral. The few they have left, they've demolished them, taking them away from them. Justice Akamba, Justice P.K., Jaisayo, Dr. Naomi Apia, who was at the Judicial Service Clinic, all demolished. Justice C.J. Honyenuga's house has been sold. Justice Vida Akoto Bamfo, Justice Lorinda Ousu. And you wonder what's happening in this country. And if you have seen the latest SEM Capital memo, the Transaction Advisors memo to the board, it confirms everything we have been saying about.
What does it confirm?
The conflict of interest, the fact that the process was skewed to favor the Honorable Bryan Acheampong, the Minister for Agric. This memo...
What makes for interesting reading?
Dated 24th.
Freddie Blay even making mention of the fact that his son put in a bid.
Yes.
And that was a lot more.
A lot more. About $150 to $200 million. Now, this is the transaction advisor on the 24th of May. And the board chair who wrote that article on June 26, the Honorable Elizabeth Ohini, has a lot of questions to answer because this was addressed to her, raising fundamental objections to what SSNIT was doing. Right. And yet she came out to say that even angels will vote for the project. The levels of dishonesty and blasphemy is most shocking. This is the transaction advisor saying that the SSNIT Rock City Unholy Alliance, the proposer offers an installment plan with no confirmation of availability of funds. Payment is based on the cash flows of Rock City Hotel with no credit enhancement from any bank. There is no indication of ability to pay. The arrangements for the transfer of the shares do not satisfy the objectives of SSNIT. Transfer of the management and ownership will take 2 years. The 2-year installment plan was not made available to all bidders.
Okay.
Can you believe that? It continues that the latest proposal does not meet SSNIT's objectives, which were clearly stated in the terms of reference for this transaction. The transaction is stretched out over a 2-year period of uncertainty, during which the implementation of the SSNIT's strategic objectives will essentially be on hold. Other investors who submitted bids did not have an option of spreading the payment of shares over a 2-year period.
All right.
A 2-year transition will make the transaction a target of public scrutiny. The proposal does not include the source of funding for the balance of the acquisition price.
Okay, so your point has been
made.
And
if you read very quickly, if you read SSNIT's own published procurement notice, a copy of which I have here. SSNIT put out the pre-qualification criteria.
Which are?
Which are, 1, legal status of the firm, 2, profile of firm, including key financials for the last 3 years. We now know that Rock City's financials, they were not even filing their taxes. Relevant credentials of hotel industry, valid SSNIT and GRA clearance certificate for firms registered in Ghana. We now also know, based on my intercepted documents from the GRA, that they couldn't have had a valid tax clearance certificate. The pre-qualification criteria also said that the preferred hotel or hotels in which the firm wants to participate. Then, this is key, sources and proof of funding. The transaction advisor is telling SSNIT that you have selected a preferred bidder who does not provide the source of funding.
All right.
Does not provide a bank guarantee.
Right.
I mean, what is going on here?
We'll come to...
So this is a work and pay arrangement. Clearly what it is.
Okay. All right. Just hold for me. Let me just take a few messages and then I'll come back to you. Some of you are complaining about my seemingly interrupting Acheampong-Ablakwa. I don't know whether you sitting there know how much time I have for the interview. Some of you sometimes sit on the other end and think you can do what I'm doing or run it better. You can come and try. But I have a limited time within which to have the conversation, so I must ensure that you get everything you want to hear. And that's why I am doing that. But let me come back into the studio. Yes. 2 quick questions as you have the document.
Let me thank the producer
you were looking for
going into my car.
Right. No, you can read it. You can go ahead and read it.
It has here Public Procurement Authority.
Right. And this, by the way, has to do with the previous bit we were looking at, the National Cathedral. And the Public Procurement not giving its approval. So quickly on that.
Yes. So because your producer said we will be focusing on SSNIT, that's why I didn't bring National Cathedral documents. So you have here 5th July 2022. This is signed by Frank Mante, the Chief Executive of the Public Procurement Authority. Application to access information on procurement approval relating to the construction of the National Cathedral by Ribade Company Limited. Reference is made to your letter dated 4th July 2022 on the subject above. Please be informed that the Public Procurement Authority holds no information relating to the construction of the National Cathedral by Ribade Company Limited. You may wish to refer your inquiry to the National Cathedral Secretariat. And this was sent to me, the Honorable Samuel Acheampong-Ablakwa, MP North Tong, Parliament House, Accra, Ghana. And you can have a look at it. No. Can you believe this? So when I asked the minister yesterday in Parliament that before you were making the releases, the unconstitutional releases of our public funds, did you check that the project has gone through the procurement processes in compliance with our Public Procurement Act? She says she has to go back to the office to check. But it's fundamental. It's basic. Before releasing funds, you have to check. Now, our 339 million Ghana cedis is gone. No recourse to the procurement laws.
All right, so this has been clarified. I think, Mutala, you were posing the question. That is the document. You can also at least attest to it for now. But 2 quick questions on SSNIT, and I wanted to be very brief because I have limited time, which is why I've been doing what I've been doing. 1, are you saying that having been in government before, you haven't purchased anything that is owned by the state? Fair question. Just to you. Give me a straightforward answer.
Never.
Don't beat about the bush.
Never.
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 Never participated.
And you never will?
I never will.
Okay.
I've received offers.
Do you stand by the statement that Rock City was making losses? Do you stand by that? Because you've been taken to court on that. Do you stand by it?
I stand by it. I have the court case is with the Blaze about the Labadi beachfront.
Okay, so yes, I made mention of that, but he's threatened, taking you on that. Do you stand by that statement?
I have here. There's his own filings at the GRA. He dared me. Remember, he said I didn't have any document from GRA. These are the GRA documents here. I'll leave a copy with you.
Is it legal for you to have that, though?
A member of parliament in the public interest can access any information. Once, there are a plethora of cases. Once it's in the public interest. Once it's in the public interest.
All right, let's quickly look at a few more issues. I'm going to lump them together so we can do this very quickly. Sure. I want us to look at LI 240, the cement bit in there, but I also want us to look at the free SHS bill. Quick thoughts. Your side in Parliament has now accepted, and the bill was laid they say it's no longer regulation, it's what? I've forgotten the word. But yesterday I had here Murtala Mohammed, the Tamale Central legislator, who vehemently disagrees with your end in Parliament. Are you in agreement with Murtala, or are you in agreement with your caucus in Parliament?
If I can wrap up on the SSNIT hotel says for a second.
20 seconds.
I want to state emphatically that based on the latest documentation we have received, confirming, even beyond our wildest imagination, what we have always known and believed. The President Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government should not be talking about a suspension of this deal. We want to hear a cancellation. And I feel strongly about this.
Okay.
We are going to continue to cooperate with Shraj's investigation, and our agitation would not stop until we hear that the government has outrightly cancelled. I mean, when you read this transaction...
So are you promising further demonstrations?
Further actions, yes.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Further action.
You've called in the past for what happened in Kenya to happen here. I don't know whether that is something you still stick by. That could lead to... You saw what happened in Kenya, right? Dousing the parliamentary building with fire and everything. Is that what you're calling for?
I am saying...
Is that what you're calling for?
That if the violence of the political class on state assets, violence on impoverishing the people, there is very little the people can take any longer.
And that's the answer?
And it becomes inevitable if the political class... And I'm glad that yesterday, the Honorable Afenyo-Markin read a statement in Parliament cautioning the entire political class.
Indeed.
And now you've seen the Kenyan MPs apologize. Some of them they are wearing T-shirts, I'm sorry. So when you meet them, you can know that they are very apologetic, and so you spare them.
Right.
Those of us who consistently are sounding the alarm bells should not be seen as the troublemakers.
Right.
I mean, it's shocking that people like to portray some of us who are saying, look, stop the looting, stop the great loot and share, stop the state capture. Some state assets, if not all, should be sacred. Why? Even the colonialists left us parks and gardens as a green belt for our horticultural needs.
And Nkrumah built on that.
Yeah, since 1952.
Okay.
And you are
so point made.
Selling everything inside.
Your take
we are not the troublemakers.
Right.
Advise the plunderers to stop it.
All right. Let's do, and I keep saying that I'm pushing you because of the time. LI 240, cement regulation or whatever it is that it's being called. Murtala Mohammed saying, no, you shouldn't have accepted it. It's been laid. He says he will frustrate the process. What is your position on that?
I am very well aligned with Comrade Murtala's position on,
you support him?
On this matter. I support him fully. And yesterday, I want to salute the former minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who brought back the issue and said that, look, as a former Trade and Industry Minister, he does not even see the legal basis for this LI, that an LI must necessarily be based on the Parent Act. It must flow, it must emanate from the Parent Act. When you read Section 80 of the Parent Act, there is no provision there that allows the Trade Minister to bring an LI seeking to engage in price control, which is something we abandoned many decades ago under this liberal dispensation. The 1992 Constitution does not allow this. You know, so it is really an aberration. It's a travesty that that LI was laid. And the Right Honourable Speaker, following our submissions, and Dr. Ayeni, Honourable Mahama Yariga, Roxin Dafiamekpo, I mean, they were erudite in making the point. The Speaker then ruled that he will advise the Trade Minister to come withdraw. You see, as the Speaker explained, we have a constitutional challenge where LIs are supposed to be laid automatically under the Constitution. And then once it's laid, 21 days, it's like a moving train. You can only stop it with 2/3. And you know the extremely partisan nature, you know, where MPs of the ruling party think that it would be an attack on their president. They would not be in the good books of the president if they distance themselves from some of these LIs. So a proposal is being suggested that when we come to do constitutional review, we must have a different approach where there ought to be proper pre-laying. Parliament must first assess these allies, have a report, debate it before it is laid.
So what actions are you going to take on this? Murtala says there's not even enough time, the 21-day period, unless you are sitting on Mondays in addition. And the Speaker would, of course, there are processes to be followed on that. Do you think this bill can make it through?
We are determined to frustrate it. Our side.
You are determined to frustrate it?
Yes, it's determined.
But your side, your leadership, accepted it's being late. And you say your side is determined to frustrate it. I don't get the connection.
You see, you need to understand that because of the constitutional cul-de-sac, the chief whip, who was the one
Agboja,
leading, Honorable Agboja, really had his hands tied. And you notice that yesterday he didn't object to all of the statements that were made in opposition to what has happened. So we will do our best to frustrate this. The Speaker has already advised the Trade Minister, because he can come withdraw. And if he does that, the better for all of us.
So some of you members of Parliament on the NDC side, you are planning to frustrate this?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Let's go to the free SHS bill and everything in between. You've been a former Deputy Minister of Education. There's also Professor Stephen Ade, who recently has, interacting with my colleague Evan Spencer, has asked, has free SHS been implemented illegally, so to speak? This bill, what do you make of it? And is it going to pass the test, the litmus test in Parliament?
To be very honest with you, my brother, some politicians will have to respect Ghanaians and recognize that the people are discerning. If you pay regard to our 1992 Constitution, Article 25 is very clear that education in Ghana really should be free. So we have F-cube, the free compulsory universal basic education. Secondary education, the Constitution says, should be progressively free. Even tertiary education, it is the vision of the framers of our Constitution that when the economy improves, and we are in very good, sound economic times, tertiary education should also be free. So education is a right. And under the Constitution, education should not be priced beyond the ordinary Ghanaian. It should not be made a privilege. So there's already the constitutional framework. That is the supreme law of the land.
Right.
What is this sudden, hubris? Trying to create the impression as if we have been implementing free SHS illegally all these years. And all of this, the political grandstanding that is at play, is to create the impression that, hey, elections are coming. We are not doing well in the polls. The NDC folks, who we have, very disingenuously twisted their "we will review" to mean we will cancel. It's only some elements in the MPP who define review as cancel. Free SHS is not safe if they win. So let's put out this hubris and create the impression that suddenly free SHS is under attack.
All right. So just to clarify for me, you support free SHS?
We all do.
Okay. I just wanted that. No,
yes.
I just wanted that.
It's in the Constitution.
Right.
When I was Deputy Education Minister, we started progressively free. President Mahama went to Parliament and announced that we are going to implement Article 25 of the Constitution.
You support free SHS, but you are not in support of this bill in its current form.
How can I support something I haven't seen? Where is the bill? Have you seen the bill?
Right.
Afenyo Makin will tell us, oh, it's coming to Parliament by close of day. Then we see an interview by the Education Minister. It's now going to Cabinet. I mean, we are
okay, so that point has been clarified.
Cock and bull stories. This is just political grandstanding, which has no respect for the people.
Right.
Look, everybody in Ghana knows that the challenge with free SHS has nothing to do with whether it is legal or not. It is about the horrible implementation. Look at the quality of food. Look at the contact hours where teenagers are spending months at home, more time at home than in school. No textbooks, no lab equipment.
Right.
The quality of education is at an all-time low. This is a government that promised to build 350 secondary schools to address the issue of congestion. They have not even touched one. We haven't seen the first 350. I mean, so those are the issues. I agree with Professor Ade that there are implementation challenges. Focus on that.
So are you saying that free SHS has been implemented? Yes, but it's been implemented illegally because...
No, not illegally.
There's
nothing illegal about free SHS. It's in the Constitution.
No, it's about
law of the land. I don't see how...
But have you seen any policy document on free SHS?
No.
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 What does that make that? Everything you've been signing off on for free SHS, how have you been signing off on it as members of parliament? Is it legal? The budgets and everything, have you been signing off legally on them?
So, in terms of legality, I have told you that Article 25 of our Constitution is very clear, that we should work towards free education at all levels. So there's legality. But you see, the implementation challenges have come about because of the lack of a policy, the lack of an implementation framework, which will have allowed us to even measure the outcomes. So what do we do in the first year? What do we do in the second year? Remember that they were implementing this on a gradualist basis. They started with one cohort, then it went to two cohorts, then all the three cohorts. So where is the opportunity to assess, to do a review? So that's where a policy document, and you see, that has been one of the major challenges we have as a country. And that's why I support the call that, look, instead of even manifestos, let's prioritize a national development plan. And I think that the NDPC should be properly funded. Their laws should be strengthened. They should take center stage in our development paradigm. What we have now is a lot of just touch and go campaign.
So
what will give us votes?
Point made on that. And now that you mentioned the NDPC, let me commiserate with them. I heard to my utter shock that Dr. Abrampa, who has also been director at that institution, has passed, and I was in shock. Only yesterday I heard of that.
Oh no, I haven't.
We commiserate with the NDPC and the entire fraternity on that.
Oh, condolences! I haven't heard that.
I was shocked. Just to wrap in maybe a minute and a half, if you can manage. One, the Speaker of Parliament says ex gratia. I mean, you should say goodbye to it. You've benefited from it, haven't you?
So has
the speaker.
Yes.
You are now saying, I mean, it must start from somewhere. Are you in agreement? And the final bit, I got this question from our sports team. I'm going to put it to you. What is holding up the sports minister's presentation of the financial report of the African Games to Parliament, and when should we expect it to be done? These two in about a minute, and we're done.
I've consistently said that ex gratia should be reviewed. A lot of it are back pays and all of that. And I think that the whole arrangement where it appears that executive legislature scratch my back, I scratch your back. Let's have an independent emoluments commission that takes care of everybody. Let the politicians remove ourselves, and let's be looking at pensions when you leave.
So for all the arms of government?
Political office, for all arms of government.
Right.
So I am on all fours with the Speaker. I don't support the ex gratia arrangement. It puts us up for needless opprobrium and attacks. On the matter to do with the All Africa Games, I raised this on the floor. Indeed, I took on the sports minister when he came to present what was just prose about how many medals we had won and all of that. That is not what Parliament is established for. I mean, we are the keepers of the purse. Already, documents we have intercepted show that you have gone to spend way beyond what we approved. I intercepted a document where they were spending $48 million on just operational, so-called operational expenses. So we are demanding full accounting of the All Africa Games. And let's be clear, we are not going to allow the sports minister to get away with this.
What are you going to do?
Must return to that.
The 8th Parliament is drawing to a close. What are you going to do?
We asked the ranking member on the sports committee to file an urgent question.
Who's the ranking member again?
The Honorable Kobi Woyome of South Tong. He's filed that question. The sports minister is pussyfooting because under our standing orders, it shouldn't have gone beyond 2 weeks. So
are you saying the sports minister is running away?
Clearly, because, I mean, this is the first time a sports minister, any sports minister from any political tradition in a Ghanaian parliament, has presented a report on a tournament without the financials. He just came to waste our time.
Okay. Well, this is where we're going to have to sew up the conversation. Thank you for engaging us this morning. I'm sure maybe at some other time we can have a look at some of the other pertinent documents we brought, but thanks for coming through. And that is the Northton legislator, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. But stay with us. There's still a lot more action coming your way. And we're also going to be talking about the UK's election, 650 representatives for 650 constituencies. It's a snap election called by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He's already voted this morning in the UK. The question is, what will happen? Will the Conservatives be able to hold on to power, or will they lose their grip for Labour to take over? We'll be having that conversation as we take you to the UK up next on the AM show. Do stay.